There's a specific kind of exhaustion that comes with running a coaching business between $50,000 and $100,000 a month. And it is not the exhaustion of you failing. It's the exhaustion of working as hard as you're working and still feeling a bit stuck and trapped in your business. You've proven that you have a good model. You get clients, you're delivering results. To most people, you're crushing it. You're probably one of the top students inside your community or mastermind or anything like that. And yet every month, it can start to feel like the business could fall apart quickly. It feels like you're starting over every month. A great month gives you hope, and a slow month can just as quickly send you into a panic mode. And somewhere in the middle, you're lying awake, running the same numbers in your head, wondering what you're missing, wondering how quickly it could fall apart, and wondering why you're not at $100,000 to $200,000 a month yet. I know that feeling intimately. As I was growing my online fitness coaching business, I felt like I ended up in this trap between the 50 and like 80K a month level. And I want to tell you today with absolute certainty, you're not missing effort, you're not missing talent, you're not even missing the right strategies. By the end of this video, you're gonna know exactly what that system is that'll take your business to the next level, that took my online fitness coaching business to 200 to 300K a month. Because there's a cycle I see play out in almost every coaching business stuck at this level. It's grind, panic, launch. And if that sounds familiar, let's walk through what that looks like. You grind through a great month. You do 40, 60, 80K that month. You feel momentum building. You're feeling high on your business, but the delivery team is full. You're on a waiting list. The team needs you everywhere, and you haven't taken a real day off in weeks. And so this starts to lead from grind to burnout. So then you let your foot a little bit off the pedal, and what happens? Sales start to slow down, maybe by 20%, maybe by 30%, maybe by 50%. The 80K month that was a high now looks like a 48K month within a month or two. Maybe you just had a few bad discovery calls in a row, but suddenly the business starts to feel fragile. You're starting to feel scared inside, and there's this feeling like the business could crumble or slide backwards really quickly. So what do? You panic and you start posting more, reaching out more, and you get back into that same grinding phase. Maybe you should lower your prices. Maybe I should offer a discount. And you start thinking about what you could launch that is new that could inject some cash into your business. But you're not really being strategic. If you're being honest, you're being reactive, which then leads to some sort of reactive launch, a masterclass launch, a new offer, a new funnel, a special discount, a new campaign. And it works in the sense that it gets you a cash injection. It feels like you stabilize the slide that was happening in your business and you're able to breathe again. The problem is, if you don't catch this, that cycle continues to repeat and this becomes the norm of how you run and grow your business, which I have found for most CEOs doesn't feel like a business that's built to last. It's a business that leads to burnout. And this doesn't mean there's anything wrong with you. It's a sign that your business model is not designed for something that brings peace and stability. And this is what happens when a great coach builds a business that is so reliant on front-end adrenaline and the high and the rush of chasing new leads and chasing new sales with no proven system underneath it to hold it up even when sales are down. So let me walk you through what finally clicked for me. And I want to bring you all the way back to my very first seven-figure business. I was in my early 20s leading sales teams. And for the longest time, we could not break the $1 million ceiling. I would have 50K months and 90K months and 80K months. But 100K a month and $1 million in a year felt like it eluded me. And month after month, it would be my goal to do 80 to 100K, and we would push harder, but not quite hit our number. And if we ever did come close to hitting it, it wasn't consistent. We tried everything, new scripts, better content, better ads, new incentives, hiring better reps, hiring better setters, but nothing really held as far as breaking through to the 100K a month level in a way that felt consistent. And after 3 years of trying to break $1 million, all through grind, panic, launch, the shift finally came. And it's when I stopped asking, how do we sell more this month? And it's when I started asking, why do we keep losing the people we already have? And I started asking questions like, what if we never lost a customer? And when I solved for retention at a high level, for keeping the people we already had in a way they were aligned and enthusiastic about staying and playing all out, we developed them long-term everything changed about our revenue levels, but also how my business felt. Yes, we finally crossed the $1 million mark that year, but not because we hustled harder or sold more, but because we stopped leaking, so to speak, or losing so many of the people that we worked so hard to get. And it's really hard to beat a business, so to speak, that gets customers, never loses them, and they continue to compound and build on top of that. And if you think about some of the most valuable businesses in the world, that is their strength. So then fast forward years later, I'm growing my online fitness coaching business called the Health and Wealth Academy. And we are in that 40 to 60K trap, one that felt like exhaustion. I was working 7 days a week. I was banging my head on the wall. There were times I was forgetting to even process payments because most of my effort was, we gotta go get more sales for this next month to be just as good as the last month. And I hit that same type of wall I did in my very first business. I was good at getting clients. I knew we got them results, but just like that other business, every month felt like a revolving door. I got 10 clients the month before, but crap, I gotta get 10 clients again this next month for it to be a good month. I had already done tons of masterminds and coaching at that point, and I made a decision. I have to invest in myself to take this thing to the next level. And I spent $165,000 trying to get to $100,000 to $200,000 a month, but with strategies and coaching programs that were still solely driving me to do more front-end sales through ads, funnels, VSLs, and content coaches. I made $1,500 back. And that's when the realization, just like my very first coaching business, hit me all over again the same exact way. And I sat down in New Jersey, in the bedroom of my parents' house where I grew up. And just like my very first business, I found myself asking the question again. How much quicker would this business compound to $100,000 to $200,000 a month if we never lost clients? And I started asking, why are clients leaving after 3 months, 6 months? But that's just the norm. That's what people do. Maybe they stay a year. Maybe they continue into some sort of month-to-month subscription. But why is not every student ascending for years into a high-level program? And how do I make that happen? And that's the question I started to become obsessed with. And I started looking at all the data in the industry. And most fitness coaching programs are really great at selling people into some sort of 12 to 16 week program with a big promise. But most of them are not retaining 70, 80, 90% of those students into another 12, 24, or 36 month high ticket container. And I wanted to know why, and I wanted to know what I had to change to make that happen. So as counterintuitive as this sounds, I had just invested that $165K into all of these ads and content coaches. I made a decision on a dime to turn all of that off. No new ads, no new funnels, no VSLs. I just committed to one thing: building out a system and a roadmap to keep the people that were already coming into my programs and keep them for years, not months. And how to serve them in a way that goes deeper with them, builds a real path for lasting transformation that they're proud to have been a part of for years. One that doesn't just get them temporary results, but gets them permanent identity transformation that's lasting. And within the next 6 months of putting all this into place, we crossed $100,000 a month. Same audience, less than 10,000 followers, no ad spend at all at that point, just a different model and better systems to build a business that's truly valuable. So let's walk through the 3 exact revenue drivers that I built out over those 6 months, and what I built and what I've since installed in hundreds of coaching businesses just like yours with the LTV method. And it's built on the insight that there are 3 real drivers of revenue growth in a coaching business, not 1, 3 really important ones. And most coaches only work on maybe one of these at a time. I'm gonna walk you through all 3. The first one is how to maximize front-end sales efficiency. And by definition, what I mean by efficiency is getting more out of what you already have. I want to be really precise here because this is where coaches, I think, get confused and end up in that reactive grind, hustle, panic type process. Front-end efficiency is not about having to get more. It's about doing a better job with the leads that you already have. It's more revenue from the traffic that you've already worked so hard to get. I'm telling you right now, I see it time after time after time. Most coaches have 20 to 50% of uncaptured revenue sitting right in their current pipeline. Leads who got on a call and said no, but weren't followed up with property. Warm leads who consumed content for months, but were never invited properly into a conversation, so they never booked a call. Discovery calls that didn't move on to their sales call and could have been processed more effectively to the next stage. Or closing calls that the average order was lower than it could have been, or the closing ratio could have been up by a few percentage points. With better frameworks and better systems, we identify where there's a gap. Some people would call it leaky buckets in your existing sales process. And I know you probably think you do a pretty good job at sales. That's why you're at $500,000, $1 million, or beyond. And even those businesses, every time we take a look at it, there is 6 figures or more in revenue right in the sales process that you have with your front-end sales right now. The second driver that I started to put into place is an actual Ascension Roadmap. Most people have sub-average ascension because they don't have a clear roadmap showing people where they're going. When a client finishes your program, what happens? If the answer is their program's over or they graduate, listen to the language of that and how the client will interpret that. They have arrived, the program has ended, the program is over. But you don't hear someone say at the end of freshman year, college is over, I have graduated. You hear them say, I've completed freshman year, I'll see you back next year for sophomore year. You're missing a high level of revenue by not having a clearer roadmap for where clients go as they complete each stage of your coaching. And you know this, your current clients already believe in you. You've gotten them an incredible result. But if you have ever run into, they love me, I got them results, when I asked them to stay, they said, I think I'm gonna figure it out on my own at this point. They say things to you like, I love you, but I think I got it from here. If that happens to you, it's not because they didn't want to stay. You didn't have a proper Ascension roadmap and a system from day one. Put that in place and you will unlock hundreds of thousands of dollars, if not $1 million a year in additional revenue. Because conceptually, you know this. Selling someone you already have a relationship with on a next step should be 10 times easier than having to go chase a cold lead. Most coaches just don't have a structured process to win with the back end or back end offers because they don't have a real ascension pathway that takes clients from their first level progress to their next level. And for me, taking the time to build that single asset with the same level of prioritization and focus that I built out my front end sales processes led to millions of dollars being unlocked by taking the time to invest in that. But not just the revenue, it led to a business model that felt much less volatile and a lot more predictable. And the third and final driver that I added was what I call the 4C freedom formula. Now, what that is specifically is optimizing your delivery system where it's not so reliant on one-on-one coaching. By doing this, you expand the capacity of what your organization can hold. Where one coach used to be able to handle 20, 30, 40 clients, they can now hold a lot more. Your entire system can handle hundreds, if not thousands of clients without having to hire a new coach every other month as you continue to grow. In doing this, you win with Parkinson's Law. Parkinson's Law says what? We fill to the capacity that we leave for something. And by building an actual delivery system that can hold and handle for thousands of clients without having to hire new coaches every 30 days, that by itself created this energy to go get business and to keep building the business in a way that compounded and continued to grow. This change alone, while it didn't feel strategic, it was a mindset change and an expectation change that made a significantly bigger difference for me getting to the next level than I ever could have originally imagined. All of this led, yes, to more revenue, but more importantly for me was a structural difference for a business that felt less volatile, a business that finally felt more stable. It felt like there was a floor to my business that we would almost never fall below, which is what led to over 60 months, over $100,000 cash collected. Slow months became more manageable and next level months felt easier to get to. So If this sounds like you, stop making decisions from scarcity and falling back into a pattern of grinding, and then reacting from panic. Start slowing down and making decisions from leadership and proactive strategy. And I say that because this is exactly what I've seen coaches in this industry finally decide to do, and it's like a breath of fresh air for them on the other side. I think of a vegan coach, Fritz. He had been at it a while trying to break through the next level. He says to this day, after installing the LTV method, it is the reason for stability during slow sales months and the reason for his biggest sales months to 200 to 300K a month. Because of this system, he said he felt like he had a more stable floor and a ceiling that had gotten lifted. Robin had built a business that was solely reliant on front-end sales. When she finally installed this system, she said to me, "I can't believe I've spent the last 7 years making business harder on myself by only relying on this one main source of revenue." In the first year she installed this system, she jumped her business from $1 million to $2 million cash collected. Same brand, same audience, just a different revenue architecture as the model of her business. And thirdly, April installed this, and not only did she have 20 to 30% growth from one year to the next, she said, "I would take this model, even at the same revenue level, any day of the week. Better lifestyle, more stability, less stress." Because she was now growing a business without having to get a single new follower, without having to chase new leads for her business to finally grow. And this is exactly what I want for you. This is exactly why I create these videos. Not just another coach telling you how to get a bigger number by working harder, but a business that actually feels different. One where you're not lying awake at night, running math in your head, wondering if you'll actually have a good month again next month. One where a slow week doesn't feel like a crisis. One where you've built something that actually holds for stability because you have the right foundation. And so if you're between 50 to 100K a month yourself, and you relate to that like grind, panic, launch cycle, I've built in the description below a free LTV diagnostic tool. You can grab it for free, and just in a couple minutes, by plugging your own numbers in, you can identify how much business is being left on the table by not having this system right now. It shows you exactly how you can unlock another level of revenue in your business. So go ahead and grab that link in the description, fill your own numbers in, and I'll see you in the next video.